Hey everybody, this is Chelsea Shaffer.
And Caitlin Gustov.
And this is The Score, the official podcast of the sport of team roping. This is the Team Roping Journal's semi-weekly podcast highlighting the team roping industry's top talents and influencers through stories that inspire and connect ropers. We sit down with ropers from the professional ranks as well as industry icons and producers to delve into topics that make the team roping world tick. This is season 2. It will feature even deeper interviews, storytelling, and issue-based coverage, and we are so excited you're here. Before we get started, we've got to thank our sponsors at Fastback Ropes. They're presenting this week's episode, and they just launched a new rope, the Cobalt. Similar in diameter to the Excalibur, this rope will appeal to ropers who prefer more tip weight and less body or bounce, and we'll tell you more about it later in this episode. If you can't wait, head on over to fastbackropes.com and check it out. I don't really know what to say about this week's episode of The Score, but I will tell you I've been waiting over a year for this interview. You see, there's only one Clay Tryan, and the goal of this episode is to give you some clues into the man behind the most impressive jackpotting record in history, 3 world titles, and some of the greatest horses to ever score, break, and face. His intensity is absolutely legendary, and now, some 22 years into his PRCA career, he's got some big picture perspective that we get to explore. I really hope this interview pulls back the curtain just a little bit on this man who has been to 16 Wrangler National Finals rodeos, won every major jackpot at least once, has notched $2.5 million in pro rodeo earnings, and at the time of this recording, is sitting inside the top 10 in the PRCA World Heading Standings. Without further ado, he does a pretty good job of helping me introduce this episode himself, so I'll stop. This is Clay Tryan. Hey Clay, how are you?
I'm doing great. Chelsea, you?
I'm good. Where are you these days?
Spanish Fork, Utah.
How was it?
I haven't waited yet. I'm up tomorrow.
Oh,
sitting in my truck doing this podcast. 100 degrees outside, so it's warm.
Good. Well, good that you're in your truck at least. Is the AC decently running? I know we can't hear it in the background, so are you cool?
It's working, and if I have to put it in drive around this parking lot to get it fired back up again, I might do that. But no, we're good to go.
Okay.
So.
Sounds good. Well, I'm glad. I don't want you to bake.
No, I'm ready. We've been talking about doing this for a while, so I'm ready.
Yeah, I think that's a fun fact that I wanted to mention at the beginning of this interview. You are somebody I talk to anytime I'm going to run, like anything I want to try something new, I run it by you because you're like my biggest skeptic. And I feel like you'll tell me the truth if you think it's a stupid idea or if you think it's something I should try.
And what did I tell you? I told you should.
You told me I should do it. You told me it had to be good and it had to be lots of conversations. And so I think we're a year and a half into this before I was brave enough to want to do one with you because I had to get some practice before we did this.
Yeah, because I've listened to, I don't know how many, rodeo people listen to podcasts, but I've been probably listening to them for about probably 5 years.
Yeah.
I have a few of my favorites, but I mean, I got one that I think's the best just because it is a typical podcast. Some are just interviews, some podcasts are just ESPN, doing PTI, the whole, just what's on TV, they put it on there. And then I actually like the real podcast because you kind of get the inside information and it's just a, kind of a free-flowing conversation. So, I told you to give you a few ideas. And like I said, I'm glad you did it.
Now, what are your favorite podcasts? Obviously, other than The Score, what are your favorite podcasts?
Yeah, my favorite one I like is I've listened to Joe Rogan. He's not my favorite, but I think he's just an interesting guy. And then Bill Simmons, he's on The Ringer. He's the best at it that I've seen do it for what I like in sports. I'm not saying he's my favorite guy. Just to me, he does a podcast the best out of all the people I've listened to. So kind of, he has some inside info sometimes and just has good guests. And I think that's the best one for me anyways. Team
roping's so hard when it comes to inside info because I have info, but sometimes it's so hard to know what I can say and can't say because we're such a tiny, small community. Like, so-and-so just got cut because they couldn't keep their horses together. You kind of can't say that all the time. Team roping is a funny little tiny community with lots of gossip that is interesting to share or not share.
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much gossip, but like you said, people get their feelings hurt for a while. It seems like everybody gets over it eventually. But when you do have some inside info, I mean, it's hard to use it. And it makes it, a good podcast kind of would make a good podcast if you could use it. But it's such a small community. I don't know if it would ever work quite to that extent. I don't really know. But, yeah, you probably got some inside info, and it would be great. I wish the sport kind of had it. I think that's what it needs to grow in general. I mean, if anybody writes a negative article or anything, people get so mad about it. And sometimes it's not even negative. It's just the truth. So I would like to see it covered more that way. But like you said, I don't know if it's possible in the smallest circle.
Yeah, the circle's so small, and there's so like the money that supports me and that supports you and supports the way we all make a living. There are so few pools or buckets to take that money out of. It's like if you make one person angry, then you're, cutting off the hand that feeds you pretty quick. So
yeah, but I've never really understood that. I mean, if it's an honest opinion and it's right, I don't know why anyone could get mad about that, but they do. I've never understood that. If like somebody asks you your opinion, you tell them the truth and they don't like it, it never has made sense to me that, like you said, they might want to fire you or whatever from your job. And we don't want to say anything to get fired. You fired on this on this podcast. But I mean, I think that's what grows the sport, makes it interesting, gets people, wanting to follow it. Is some of the inside info is the good stuff, and it doesn't even necessarily bad. It's just the good stuff. I mean, I kind of want to know inside sports stuff. So if I have friends that play professional sports, I'll ask them the questions that never get brought up on TV just because I kind of want to know.
And I feel like we've done a better job with the Team Roping Journal in doing it. I'm not defensive. Like, I'm not saying that. I feel like that's been something we've really tried to do is like less of the nitty gritty, like this is what time they were on this steer, blah, blah, blah. And more of I guess the way I kind of approach the inside sports angle, you can't make people as bad when you write about the horses that they're riding, like in more detail and like where those horses came from and all the different angles and who had them and who rode them and maybe like they reared out of the box before or this or that. Like it's a little easier to write about horses than like people's divorces or their drug habits or like anything that way.
Yeah, I don't know the drug habits. But I think people's stories are interesting. I think how people came up, what they did to be good. Mm-hmm. Some people come from nothing. Some people came from money. Some people, did it where their parents didn't rope. Some people's parents roped good. Just kind of all walks of life. And I think it's all interesting and unique, all those stories. And the horses are pretty unique how, one guy, like you said, wasn't very good and then got good, the horse, or one guy liked him and the next guy didn't. So, yeah, there's different ways to go with all of it. And I like listening to the stories. And, I mean, you kind of know people once you get out here because, it is a small circle. And one of my favorite questions I get asked is, like, they'll be like, do you know Trevor Brazil, say? And I'm like, we're back-to-back at the NFR. So surely we didn't say anything to each other? You know what I mean? That's the question. I was like, are you serious? And then maybe people just don't know what to say to me. And so that's a question they ask her. Do you know Derek Begay? Man, I should. You know what I mean? I should know who he is. We're at the same rodeo every time. But maybe people don't understand how much we are, we're all spread out, all from somewhere, in North America. But how we're, this parking lot today, I mean, there's half the good ropers in the world were, either out today or tomorrow or, and then on to the next spot. So, I mean, we all know each other pretty good, really. So
it's funny, the questions that people have about different people's personalities. Somebody asked me at the junior rodeo this weekend, is Aaron Sinigini really as funny as he seems? And I thought, I love Sinigini. He's one of my good friends. Yeah. I was like, funny? Yeah. Where did you get
maybe?
Sinigini's funny. Like, he is funny. Like, he makes me laugh, but I can't imagine how somebody got funny as his like public persona? That was an interesting question I got the other day.
Maybe they know him pretty good. He is pretty funny, so maybe
He
they
is
know
funny
him a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, he is funny. Okay, so to get rolling on your on the questions that I told you, I promised you I had for you, so we weren't just going to be winging it.
Yeah.
I want you. I've asked other guys this, so don't get mad at me that I'm asking the same question. But these are some of my favorite answers. Can you take me into the practice pen that you grew up in as a kid? What was the Tryan family practice pen like? What did it look like? What kind of steers were you roping? What kind of horses were you riding? And how were your parents talking to you?
I grew up in I want to say it was railroad ties in wood, maybe wire, in between. It was we had lights when I got a little bit older. It's probably 300 foot long, probably 150 wide. That's kind of how everybody built arenas back then. I always had my dad. We when I was a kid growing up, we had a kind of like a guest ranch type deal, and we taught people how to rope. So my dad was kind of always trading horses here and there, and not necessarily be a horse trader, but like he'd have to have all these horses for these people to ride. And so we would just mix and match on, what was left over that we didn't use that week, we would rope on. And then I did have a really good a mare that that I grew up roping on that kind of got me. She was the first good horse that I got to ride, and she kind of let me know what a good horse was. And Brady and Travis both. She had a colt, and they both made the NFR, I want to say. And they never rode her at the NFR, but they rode her a lot during the season. And so I kind of grew up on horse like that. But I grew up riding just different horses my dad would buy and sell, and, just doing different stuff like that. And so I was out there all summer long, a lot running the chutes, and back then wrapping 40 head of steers, which were longhorns back then. That's kind of what everybody roped, and fresh in the spring and old in the fall. And like I said, we'd wrap 40 every day and unwrap 40, and Billings can be hot. So it was a long summer sometimes. I always joke with my kids when they want to go, on a vacation. I'm like, how many vacations I went on when I was a kid? 0. So my vacation was out there in Road 8 North, Huntley, Montana. But it was good times. Looking back, it was probably some of the best times of my life. I didn't know it at the time, but I had this dream of actually doing what I do now and to actually accomplish some of it. My dad was a huge influence, I know, on me and my brothers making it, just because he obviously knew enough, because we all made it. And he was hard on me and Travis, but he wanted us to be good and wanted us, the best for us. So, I have to thank him a lot for the way he was, and, just kind of out there learning together in a weird way.
Now, when you were a kid, was your dad still rodeoing a lot then, or had he retired by the time?
No, he quit. I don't think he really liked it. He rodeoed. He made the NFR in 1984, and I don't know how many years he rodeoed up, or I've never really broke down his schedule, but he made the NFR in 1984. I think he started in 85. He said he didn't like it. He quit. I started school maybe like in 85 or 86, and or first grade or whatever, and he just stayed home. He would amateur rodeo and pro rodeo, like, over the 4th of July. I always got to go watch it, like Cody Livingston Red Lodge and stuff like that. He would circuit rodeo. But he said there was really no money in it back then, and he just didn't want to be gone as much as it required to be away from us to do it. So he didn't want to do it anymore, which is cool and honorable. That's why I live in Texas, though, because if you live in Montana, you're never home. So you have to live in Texas, and now it feels like I'm home about half the year, and it makes it, where it's not, it's not such a beating, and you can have a normal life, outside of rodeo, and just not, living on the road, 365 days out of the year.
Now, did you go to the finals with your dad that year that he made it? Yeah,
I remember going. I don't remember a lot about it, but I do remember being there. It was in Oklahoma City. His last year was there, and I remember, the only thing I actually remember kind of is they had, it's not like it is now. I don't even know if they had autographs or did anything like that back then, but I remember they all stayed maybe at the same hotel, or most of them did, and they had like a flag football game one afternoon or something, and me and my brother were really into sports, and I think we went to some tennis courts just kind of right by the field, because my dad took me over there a couple years ago where he stayed, and those tennis courts were still there in Oklahoma City. And then I remember, we used to dress up football head to toe, and we wanted to, we just played by ourselves on the tennis courts. But that's one memory I have of him going there.
Now, were you and your brothers super competitive with one another growing up? And how much younger is Brady than you guys?
Brady's 10 years younger. Me and Travis are like 20 months apart. So, yeah, super competitive. I think it made both of us better. Because really, before me and him came along, I mean, my little generation, there wasn't many guys from the North that ever even made the NFR. It was everybody was from, California, Arizona, or Texas. And it was unheard of for guys from Montana. I mean, Shane Schwenke made it a couple times and kind of maybe invited once, and Corey Mitty made it once. My dad had made it, Bill Parker. But overall, no one really did it. And then it was almost like you couldn't do it. I mean, I was even told I was dumb, because I'm not a confident kid, but if I said I was going to do it, I was going to try to do it. And I was told I was dumb not by my dad, but by other people for, saying I'm not going to college, I'm going to go make the NFR. And they told me I was stupid for it. I was actually right, but back then that's just the way it was up there. And nowadays people are from, the minors are good from Oregon, and there's people from up north that make it. But back then it didn't seem like there was a lot of people that, were good enough. And it's hard being from up there. I mean, you get about 4 good months of weather a year, maybe 5. And I mean, in Texas, I know it's hot, but you can go 12 if you need to. And that's a huge advantage if you're trying to work on something, in my opinion.
Did you play sports during the winter then in school, or what did you do?
I played when I was little. I played everything. I even played a year of hockey. I was always good. Me and my brother were both good. He was good at sports too. Always wanted to win. Baseball was probably my best. I played in all-stars and stuff like that. Nowadays they have all these, select leagues, and I'm old enough to where that wasn't really started yet. And I got to play. They got a group of kids, the best kids from Billings, and Billings is a big town, 100,000 people, and we played a team from Japan. So that was pretty cool. It was probably the highlight as far as like my baseball career when I was like 12. But I was decent. Played football, quarterback, basketball, point guard. I was decent at all of it, but when I got to about 14, I started roping a lot and started winning, and then I just wanted to rope. I quit everything and just started roping.
Oh, you did? Gotcha. Did you play basketball? I feel like you're a basketball fan.
I'm a sports fan. I love all of it. I love baseball, basketball, football. I watch nothing else on TV besides sports. I love the competition. I love seeing guys go as hard as they can at something, and that's not scripted, and no one knows the Bachelor. Like I can't even watch it for 10 seconds, but I can watch sporting events all day long just to see guys. Because I've did it and worked hard at something, and how much time and effort and thought process they went into getting good at their craft. And maybe I just appreciate it more or love sports. I don't know which one, but no, I like watching all of it.
Do you think rodeo is moving in the right direction to, maybe never be, the NHL or the NBA,
Yeah.
but do you think it's moving in the right direction to have more coverage and to be something that maybe someday ESPN at least mentions?
I doubt it, but I hope so. It's going to take a smart guy that knows that has connections with all those, I don't know, whatever media companies to pull it off. And I don't know if we have that. I don't even know who's in charge of it, honestly. I would say no. It's never going to get like the other sports. There's animals involved and people don't understand it, but it can get better. People want to follow it. It's just, how do you monetize it? How do you get companies to put their money and invest in you? And that's why it's going to take one smart guy that knows how to do that. And I think they could do like the league pass type thing. Cause I buy like league pass for basketball. I buy it for every sport. That's what I splurge on. So I get every game all year. I have it. Besides hockey, not that into hockey. Not that I don't like it. It's just I'm not that into it. But all these rodeos are videotaped. They have these big screens at every rodeo you go to dang near. And if somehow they could get that to where the public could buy whatever it is, I spend $300 a year on football, and I spend $300 a year on all of it, or $400, whatever it is. If you could do a package to where it was even more than that, because there's so many more rodeos, and somehow you could stream it to your deal, then to me that's the shot at doing it, because they're already showing it anyways. They're showing it back to the crowd, and that's basically what, to me, League Pass is. They already showed them, and in their market, whether it's San Francisco or whatever, they're showing the Warriors there already. They just figured out a way to put it to where I can watch it too in my house in, Lipan, Texas. So if someone could figure that out and make some money off it, then the sport could grow. I think it needs to. The amount of, just what horses cost and vehicles cost and everything to get down the road. And I mean, it has to always keep going up. It's gotten better. What's crazy is it's gotten better the last few years. I did the ERA in 2016. So in 15 was the last year I rodeoed full time, sat out 16. The rodeos in the summertime were way better than they were the year off. I don't know. I don't think the ERA had something to do with it, but way better. So they've started to add more money. They could still fix a lot of things. I mean, I've been ranting about this last few days about this, and it's never been like this. And I don't know if they have anybody smart enough in there to do it. I'm not knocking anyone that does it, but you'd have to maybe live it to understand it. But like we were all at Casper and Sheridan that week, Vernal, Estes Park on that side. They have Nampa slack on Monday, and they have Cheyenne slack on Tuesday. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah,
switch
that was
them around?
awful. Yeah.
Why don't they switch it around? Why don't they have nothing happened Sunday? I know Laramie maybe has a performance, but that rodeo is too little to matter. Why don't they just have slack on Cheyenne Sunday? And then the team ropers have to go to, you'd really think about it. Team ropers have to go to Salinas. The Bulldoggers, it's back to back. So maybe do the team ropers on Tuesday and, some of the Bulldog and calf rope and maybe split that up. There's ways to do it. And that's the stuff to me that doesn't make sense. And back to back, the stock contractors always say it costs them a bunch more to have one for everyone in back to back. I don't think it costs that much more, but it saves us so much money. I mean, I just figured if there's 200 rigs that drove from Casper to Nampa and back, if you figure just the trip over at $500 a rig, that's $100,000. Just wasted money to go over there, and we were all already over there. I would like to see the scheduling like that changed a little bit, and some of it you can't. Some of it there's no fixing it, but some of it there is. I mean, why have Oakley slack on the second and Cody slack on the second? Why isn't Oakley slack on the third? Just little stuff like that. But
little stuff.
And little stuff means is huge, honestly. But that's some of the little stuff I'd like to see changed.
But okay, so I have a question because I'm really terrible at scheduling. Like I can't even manage to enter circuit rodeos appropriately. But obviously you've done this for tons of years, not that many years because you're not that old, but enough.
Yeah. No, it's about over. I mean, really. I mean, it's not. I'm on the downslide and I'm towards the end of it, and kind of want to be. I'm not. I've loved it, but I mean, I don't got a lot of years left. No.
Well, I have questions about that, but right now I want to ask you, like, how far out did you realize what a problem or what a headache all that scheduling was going to be this year? Like, did you, as soon as you looked at the first PSN that had that schedule in it, were you like, oh crap, I'm going to have to go from 1 to 1, like, or did it, as it got closer,
it's after, I don't look too far ahead. Here's the bad part about me. I have all these ideas. I've realized nothing ever changes because it really don't, and it ain't up to me. And that's the truth. I've had a few arguments with the brass or whatever, and they say every time, well, your director wanted to do it. I said, and they said, and you voted for him. And I've said at times, no, I didn't vote for him. And no, that wouldn't have been my idea. So there's really no way to win. I've lost things that I have story after story of, I'm not saying battles where I lost, and to me, in my mind, I was 100% right on the deal. So I don't, but that's the way you could fix it. Like, so after, if I was in there, say, and you told me the schedule of like, there's a way to do it. And cause they're having the days anyways, you see what I mean? They're having the slacks anyways. They're just, the days are mixed up.
Yeah. That's what, I guess the way I look at it, or what would be the problem for my mentality, is that I wouldn't look far enough ahead. And then it would be like, okay, by the way, we got to go to Cheyenne.
You would if it was your job. You would if it was your job.
Totally. That's what I'm saying. So that's why, I guess that's why I was asking. How early? It's not your job. Yeah. Yeah, I see your point. Yeah.
But I could if it was my job. It'd be pretty simple, I would think. But maybe I have lived it to know it. Yeah. Maybe you have to live it to know it. And maybe if you don't live it, you have no understanding of maybe what it takes or the amount of money. Maybe you just never did the math in your head. Maybe, it's pretty easy when you're say you're Spanish Fork this week. I promise you, if I was on the committee at Spanish Fork, which they do a great job, this ain't anything against Spanish Fork, but they're not thinking about any other rodeo this week except theirs, which they shouldn't. But the PRCA could. See what I mean? Because they govern all of them. So you can get in your own little world and not understand how to make it better, because all you're worried about is your rodeo that week making it better, which I understand that. But the thing I don't get is when the committees kind of go at each other a little bit, like, well, we're having our slack this way and we're having it this way. And it's like, well, the best guys to make the sport good, you want them to go to both of them. That's what makes it so good. We're just trying to make money and go to the best stuff. We want to go to both your stuff, and you're actually costing us money. It's not really costing you guys money. It's actually, you're making it harder on us.
Yeah.
So.
No, I can't even keep a schedule for a week for myself to go to the office. Like, I am so bad at scheduling. So I think that just sounds like a job for somebody with a different personality than me, for sure.
I'm not even saying, well, I'm with you. I mean, I'm not even saying I'm the guy for it. I don't.
Oh, no, I know.
If you said, here's a director and here's a ton of, no, I don't want that gig. I mean, it's a thankless job, and I don't want any part of it. I'm just saying, if Nampa's having their slack on Monday and Cheyenne Tuesday, and I know the Bulldoggers maybe went Wednesday or something extra or whatever they did, but well, you had slacks both days. They were just, made guys drive, at least 12 hours out of the way, even if they had to go there the next day. It's like, well, you made them go over and back. So,
yeah.
And then back again, I guess, sometimes. So.
Yeah, no, it's like, I mean, our company has accountants that handle things that I couldn't even begin to tell you, but I'm sure glad they do. It's kind of the same thing. Like, having somebody to handle that sort of stuff would be sure helpful. I'm sure there is somebody that handles it, but just maybe a different take on it. So I guess your partnerships, we could go on and on about problems.
Let's go into something more exciting. More exciting.
Do you have a partner that you think you gelled with the most over the years, and why?
Well, me and Jade were the best, probably because of him, I guess. I don't really know. I did the best with him rodeoing.
You did?
Yeah, I was probably at the best that I was at that point. Had good horses. Obviously, he's in the prime, still is. He's a younger guy, Yeah, probably just the timing of that, more or less to do with just maybe I was at a good spot where I was roping maybe my best, had some good horses, and he was great. And, we roped what I call 3 years in the PRCA. We roped for 3 years, and we went in the lead 3 years in a row. And then we did an ERA year, and next year we started from scratch. So it's a little harder to go in the lead when you start from scratch and you're not getting into San Antonio and going to the Denver qualifier. And it just seemed like a messed up year. So I felt like the 3 years that we just legitimately went at it, and then we won the ERA the year we roped. So, we went in number one. So I just think that I wish we'd have done a little bit better jackpotting, and we really didn't. It was kind of weird that we didn't. Like this year we won. We roped second partners at the jackpots, and we won, the Lone Star Shootout. So we won $40,000 and a nice bloomer trailer. So we've done good as second partners. I wish we'd won a little, like we didn't win a BFI or nothing when we roped together and stuff like that. And I thought we would, but those things are harder to win than people think. So, to win first, those things got to go. You got to have the right kind of day to do it. So, but yeah, probably me and Jay. But I've never roped with somebody that I didn't think I could do good with. I've been fortunate to where I've had a good partner, someone I could win with my whole 20 years or whatever I've been at it. I've had somebody good the whole time, which is, I don't know if that's hats off to me where I know how to talk them into roping with me, or I was that good, or what the reasoning was, but I've always had, that right guy.
Yeah.
Let's take a break from this episode to thank our sponsors in Fastback Ropes. They just launched the Cobalt, their latest core rope. The Cobalt is similar in diameter to the popular Excalibur, and it will likely appeal to ropers who prefer more tip weight and less body or bounce. The combination of poly and dyed nylon has resulted in a highly durable rope. The goal is to build a rope that feels good and retains that great feel run after run. Plus, it's aqua blue by request of Fastback customers and endorsees for maximum visibility. The Cobalt starts shipping July first. And the head ropes will be 31 foot long and available in extra soft, and soft, and medium soft. And the Cobalt heel rope will be 35 foot and available in soft, medium, and hard medium.
Now, last year, you and Travis had a good year. You had your worst finals ever? Was that your worst?
I wouldn't say it's my worst, but I would say, yeah, my worst in that I had a bad one I've had a lot of bad ones. That's the only thing that bothers me about my career. There's two things that bother me about my roping. Well, three. I didn't get as good as I thought I could be. I don't think I reached my potential. I think I had a little more in me, and I don't know why I didn't maybe reach it, but that bugs me a little bit. Not making the NFR in 08 annoys me the most, because that's the only time I tried to make it and didn't really, from the time I first made it. Because when you're young, it takes you maybe a couple years sometimes. Once I started making it and I tried to make it, I didn't make it that year. That bugs me the most. And then just not doing as good at the NFR as I should have. It's easy to rope. You get to nod and go. I should have, I've only won the average twice. Jackpot and I've done good my whole career. I should have been able to win it more. I roped terrible. Couldn't figure it out. Went and practiced every day. The horse I was riding at the NFR, my little Sarl Johnson, I've rode him a lot the last 3 years and almost every rodeo. And I don't know, he felt good. I just couldn't catch. I practiced every day and felt fine. Roped the dummy, felt fine. Go to the rodeo, feel fine and miss. It was almost weird what happened to me. I still to this day don't know what was going on. Just could not catch the steer, but yeah, it wasn't good. It was the only time I've ever just came home. Usually I take like a week or two break after the NFR. As soon as I got home the next Monday or whatever, started practicing again. So I was too mad to take a break. But I guess that's how it goes sometimes. But you need to do good there to make the year worthwhile. So I think that's what was so disappointing.
Now, you're like the most mentally tough person that I can think of when it comes to competition. Were you in your head? Did you feel like you were in your head? Were you said it felt good. Tell me about mentally how you were.
I actually think I kept a good attitude and I was good to be around, and maybe that was my problem. Maybe I should have just been myself more and just not been so angry I wouldn't have been worth talking to, and maybe I'd have snapped out of it. But yeah, I tried to keep a positive attitude, and you're still roping for good money each night, and just go to it. But that rodeo is weird. It's not like any other rodeo, or if it starts off bad, it can go bad for anyone. And guys rope good now. That's the thing now. If you're a little off, you can't just go for the catch and think you're going to win. You got to keep being aggressive and making runs every night, which is another deal. But I think I was just off the something else to talk about. But I thought the NFR team rope, I did terrible. So I wasn't just saying about me. Was some of the best roping, a 1-2 team battling it out at the NFR. I don't know if that's ever been done. You should look that up sometime.
Like, you mean just between two teams?
Yeah, Clay Smith and Paul Eves and and Caleb and Junior. And they went in right, almost tied, right?
Yeah.
They both had great NFRs, and Caleb and Junior, he heels one falling down the last round and still loses. And that I don't know if that's ever happened, where two teams that went in 1-2. You battle teams at the NFR if you're in the lead, no matter what. But it's usually not the second place team, and it's usually a different team every year, it seems like. But those two teams, they roped as good as you could rope. That had to have been good watching. When you're roping in it, you don't really notice it as much. But when I sat back and when it was done, I was like, those guys roped amazing, those two teams. I thought it was one of the best NFRs there's been.
Yeah, it was so gritty. It really was.
Was it that good to watch is what I felt? It's hard to tell when you're in it, but was it good?
Yeah, I thought it was.
Because that seemed like it. Just to battle it out, which has got to be disheartening for Caleb and Junior, just because to rope that good and not win it, that's why it's hard.
There have been teams rope half as good as they did last year and win the world. I've
done it. I've done it. But that's why when everybody says that guy's going to be a world champion, you hear it all the time, that guy's going to be a world champion. Well, there's only one guy a year. And if there's 10 good guys, then not everybody's going to win it, because your turn is one every 10 years if you do the math like that, and that's not how it works. And then you were good 10 years ago, and now you're not, some other kid is. So that's why it's harder to do than people think. And That's why I'm not always quick to say, yeah, that guy's going to do it, because, odds are you won't. I mean, that's how hard it is to do it. And maybe that's why that's the most important thing to win, is because it's hard to luck into one. You gotta rope good for a whole year to do it. But
yeah.
What do you think of the steers? You've been asking all the questions.
I know.
As a fan, I've been answering. Yeah. What do you think about the steers at the NFR?
The steers at the NFR.
Yeah, I have my take on it.
I mean, I thought it was good watching. I wasn't as strictly a team roping fan. I thought the whole NFR was good watching, and the steers didn't bother me, or they didn't hinder or help the way I felt about the NFR. But that's but you know me, I don't really rope. It's not true that I rope. So I don't have any real feelings on that. Do you feel as if the steers affected the way you roped? I mean, obviously you can catch anything.
I think they're too big.
I see.
I don't understand the and I've won 2 world titles when they've been huge. I don't understand it. It's nothing against the quality of the steers. It's just that's the smallest building we rope in all year with the tallest left fence, and now we're going to rope the biggest steers of the year. Make it old school. Why don't you make it old school at, Ogden? I mean, why is it old school in the littlest arena? Because I have pictures. I've watched old tapes. They didn't rope big steers every time. It's kind of a myth. You know what I mean? It's kind of it's like walking, uphill to school both ways. It's not really true necessarily. You know what I mean? So, not that they didn't rope big steers back in the day, because they did, but they didn't rope them every time. So I think they're a little bit too big. I think what happens is it makes it more of a drawing contest, because if the steers are huge there, and if they go left at all, it's hard to make a run. It's too big. It's too big. And so you're at a disadvantage if you kind of get on the wrong end of the steers. But that being said, the right team won it. That has nothing to do with me. I'm just saying the right team won the world last year, because they roped the best just barely. But isn't that weird, though, how it comes down to, and I think about this a lot, and everybody's like, oh, it doesn't come down to one steer ever. No, it really does in a weird way when you're good. A few runs here or there make or break your whole career. And that's what's weird about roping. I mean, if Junior heels that steer like he does, and say Clay Smith horse stumbles when he heads him and he loses his rope somehow, or just something weird happens, he hickeys a horn instead of catching, then another team went. You know what I mean? All the stuff that can happen. Yeah, it's just odd. It does come down to one steer a lot. It's just weird. When you're good, you're putting yourself in that situation, you'll have a great career over about 8 steers. And it's how you did on those 8 runs. And everybody says it doesn't come down to it. I'm like, no, it kind of does. Because I've been in those spots, and if I'd have missed that one, if I'd have missed at the George Strait a couple times because I was aggressive trying to win it and didn't win it, then, I'd have $300,000 less in my pocket and not 2 Chevys sitting in my yard. So it is kind of weird how it just comes down to a few runs you make. You got to make a lot of them, but
I love the stories that we tell, or the guys tell me about the night that they won the world and all the different chips that had to fall, or all the cards that had to fall into place to make it happen. So I think the very first episode of The Score that got people kind of listening to it and hooked on it was Sinajini giving all the scenarios that he knew in his head had to happen. But I remember the last couple world titles, you just had to catch, right? You just had to go out there and make a good, and I don't mean to minimize that, but you had good situations, most intense.
I take that as a compliment. Because that means I was dominant up to that point. It didn't come down to the last one. But I knew that. I also took a chance and won one round kind of later in the year where I was up a steer or something in the average. And I tried him on to try to win it that night to make sure they couldn't win it the next day. I didn't give myself 2 chances. No, I think that's just smart. I mean, I know I've been I haven't done good there, but I've been clutch at the George Strait. I've been clutch in spots where I've needed to be. I take it as a compliment. I like being in those situations. I think any guy that's good looks forward to it. And I think that's why, certain guys thrive. They just got what it takes. The last one doesn't bother them. And I think it does bother some people. But yeah, I don't know. It's been exciting. I like where team roping's. I don't love where team roping's going as far as the runs. I don't like all the missing because there's so much missing nowadays, but it's so fast that that's all there is. But the guys' skill level nowadays is unbelievable. How they handle their ropes is off the charts. And the shots that they can pull off heading and heeling. I think there's more headers now than healers that are good by a long ways, but there's a lot of good headers right now. A lot of good young headers. It's like a good crop of them. I don't know why there isn't that many good young healers, but there's just not right now.
Do you feel like you can keep up? You were the one that said it, not me, that you're on the downhill slide. But how do you feel about it?
Yeah, well, I can keep up. Mm-hmm. But it's not about it's just different the older you get. You just get other things, life pulling different directions. Kids, start off with one kid, not a problem. 2 kid, not a problem. They're young. Now you got 3 kids, and the older kids are older. They're roping too. You got to find them horses. They're in Montana. You're off rodeoing. You're trying to find out how they're doing at the jackpot. You're trying to get a trade over here. It's just your brain is going different directions versus, say when I was 26 and all I literally thought about was team roping. That was the first year I won the world, and I didn't do nothing else but rope and sleep and maybe play video games a little bit. That was it. And nowadays you're, just got so much more going, so it pulls you away as far as that goes. Yeah, I think I can hang in there. I mean, I have this year. I mean, I've won 2 of the biggest ropings. If we had 3 big ropings, I won 2 of them. And that's how you make the money anyways until the NFR. And then, rodeoing's a little bit of a beating just because it's everyday grind. But, yeah, I think I can keep up. It just matters how long I want to. Like, I'm so competitive that keeps me going. It's the results business, I mean, you can say how good you are, but you still got to go out there and win. And the guys that, win the most are the best for the most part.
Now you're competitive.
But
yeah.
Well, and another thing I like to, it's getting skewed on who's the best, though. I know who the best is. People know who the best guys are. They're out there. But, and there's a lot of good young guys coming, and they'll get there. But the way everything counts, the gold buckle, it's a little bit different nowadays. Like I said, the best team won it last year. And one of those 2 teams, if they won it, they were the 2 best teams. And I thought when Eric Rogers and Corey Petsko won it, I thought they were the best team for the year. So the right guys have been winning it. But when you start counting the American and Houston and, Florida and your circuit finals and all this stuff that some guys don't even get to go to, and guys win 30,000 or, they're in an easy set at Houston. And it's just like, man, it's a little skewed on who's good and who's not. So it takes till the very end to figure it out, before you could kind of tell. But I don't really love that. I don't know if that's fixable because you need the money in the sport. That's got to have it. But I'm a little bit of a traditionalist, and that didn't used to happen. And so it's just something you got to get used to, I guess.
It feels like the NFR is going to be the great equalizer, though, this year. I mean, it always comes down to the finals anyhow. So I guess, I don't know. That's my hope, is that the finals will take care of the could have, should have, situations, or the other money everywhere else. I mean.
Well, yeah. I see. The thing for me is, I think the hardest thing to win, the hardest thing to do is go in number 1 rodeoing. It's the hardest thing to do. It's a year-long contest, and you got to be better than everybody for a year. And out of all the things I've done, I've won in number 1 5 times, and 3 in a row with the same guy. And none of those things counted. So I felt good about what I did. Nowadays, there's guys in the lead. Nothing against Kyle Lockett. I like him. We're about the same age and rodeo together. He's in the lead and hadn't even been to a rodeo. I mean, he hasn't even been entering. Well, that's what it's like in 2005 when you're in the lead. You did there wasn't 50,000 at the American. There wasn't, circuit finals in Florida that you're roping against 5 good teams counting. You're grinding it out against the best guys, and that it's not that way anymore. Now, Clay Smith's in the lead and heading, and he probably is heading the best right now at anyone, him and Driggers are, in my opinion, they're the 2 best young guys by far. I mean, they're the 2 legit. They're not even young guys anymore, but they're in the prime of their career. And they're always at the top, and that, so they're where they belong. But.
Yeah. Clay Smith has over 100,000 won and did not win Houston or the American.
Well, he won a lot of Florida. And,
did he? Yeah.
Yeah. stuff like that. But that's not taking. I mean, I know, like I said, I know who's good and who's not. And so he's good. If you're out here, you'll learn right away.
Well, that was you had said to me earlier, you always give me crap about just about everything, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
But that's why I like our friendship. But you're like, I'm having the best year I've had in forever, and you haven't even called me. You and Travis are having a good year. Like you.
Well, I meant jackpotting, not just rodeo and jackpotting too. Because like I said, I won 2 of the bigger ropings. When I told you that up until the BFI hadn't happened. And you always want to call me with an interview about a horse that died 5 years ago, and I'm like, I'm kind of tired of that. But then I'm like, now I got something I won. The Four Bears roping in Newtown, and Austin Roberts had Lone Star Shoot out in Stephenville, and then you didn't even want to call me. So I kind of felt. So I was hurt.
I put your picture as a 2-page spread in the magazine and put like Jackpot King or something for you.
Yeah, there you go. I was at one time. I mean, I would like to see who's done the best jackpotting overall. I mean, it's hard. I don't know what happened in the 70s and 80s. It was just so different than it is now. But yeah, I wanted to be good at jackpots. Like I liked it. I love jackpot. I think it's I think if you're a true roper, anybody can catch one steer fast at a rodeo, but it's hard to be good all the time jackpot. And the guys that usually rope the best get good at that, in my opinion. So even before I was good at it, I noticed that and wanted to do it. So I really worked hard at trying to be good at that. That's my rant on jackpot. But.
So that's a perfect transition for me then to keep asking you questions, because do you think you could put on ropings like your dad? You love competing in jackpots. Do you think that after rodeo you could?
Yeah, I could. I got a lot of ideas. I have ideas. Not necessarily steal ideas, but you go to places and you see the stuff that certain people do well, and certain producers that are good at what they do, and things you like going to. Yeah, I could see myself doing a little bit. I don't know if I will or not. I have put on some ropings, always helped my dad out and been around it. I don't know, though. I plan on doing this for a little bit while longer. Unless I can't win, then I'll be done tomorrow. I mean, once the sport kind of tells you when you're done. If you're a header and you can't get any good healers to rope with you no more, you don't really win. It's time. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If you're still getting the good healers and you can still win, then I've had some of the older guys that came before me say do it as long as you can. Because you'll miss it when you're done. So I'm just kind of trying to weigh all that. I still love to rope. I don't love the all-night driving and the hanging out in parking lots type thing. But as far as just the roping part, I still try to work pretty hard at it, and I still want to do good, and I still enjoy that.
What else is life after rodeo going to look like for you?
I don't know. People always ask me that, and I've got ideas on certain things. I've really been one of those weird guys that I want to start some stuff, but I feel like if you get too many irons in the fire, you're going to be terrible at this job. And I've seen it happen with a few guys that they were good and now they're not. And I think it's just because of just a lot going on. And it's hard the older you get because the end's coming. You need to get something else going, but it also means you might as well just quit this too sometimes because you're not going to do good at it. The sport got younger. Mm-hmm. And younger kids don't have anything in their brain but roping. I mean, I was the same way. We're all the same way. But when I first started, everybody that roped good was close to the age I am now. And I think, maybe even older. I mean, Jake Barnes, I think, is 20 years older than me, say, or whatever, Clay Cooper. So when I first got good, I made the NFR when I was 22. Those guys were all the best ropers still. The Charles Pogues, they're probably 15 years older than me, Matt Tyler, and they're all, Matt and Charles probably about the same age, and T and Jake are probably pretty close in age. Those were all good headers. Purcell, Dan Green's probably 10 years older than me. Everybody's a little bit older, and now it's like there ain't very many of us older ones left. Luke Brown's probably the oldest by quite a bit. Me and Charlie Crawford, and you don't see many older guys doing that good anymore. And back when I started, the older guys did really good, and so. I mean, I don't know, it's gotten young in a hurry.
What's your heel number? Are you going to heel at the World Series and the Wrangler Opens, or?
I don't even like heeling anymore. I used to like it.
You don't?
I don't really like it anymore. Maybe it's because I got to work so hard ahead. I might like it if I didn't head all the time, and actually, bought a finished horse and tried to be good at it. But honestly, I don't ever hardly do it. Every once in a while, I got a young heel horse that's okay that my kid rides. That sometimes I got to get on and heel some, but I pretty much just I had to heel for him at some of the ropings, and not very many though. I'd rather him get guys that heel all the time because they're better at it. I don't even got a heel rope half the time. Not even prepared. So yeah, I don't know. I used to love it when I was younger. I almost became a healer. It was just easier for me to do, and heading's just so hard to get started that I just thought, man, this healing's a lot easier. The horses are easier to find. You don't have to ride as good a horse, and it just seemed like that's how you can make money. Jackpot a lot easier, and heading, it's like, you try a head horse and they're like, well, I only want 20,000. You're like, I got $300, and you want 20. You want 20 grand, and that's the tough part about heading is just these young kids are always like, oh, I'm looking for a horse. I said, you're gonna be looking your whole life, man. It never stops, and it doesn't. I mean, anybody that's done it a long time, they're like, you can never have enough. It doesn't feel like, and you're just always constantly looking for them. And that's the part of heading that's hard and kind of gets a little bit old and wears on you. But that being said, I just said, a few minutes ago that there's better headers now, maybe skill-wise, than there's ever been. It's amazing how many good headers there are.
Mm-hmm. Do you enjoy making horses enough that will be something that's in your post-rodeo career? Or do you not like working on horses very much?
I don't enjoy it now. I can't say that I wouldn't enjoy it later on, because I think you got to have a gift for it. My brain doesn't hardly work slow enough to do it. Like, I'm always in a hurry, and you kind of got to slow down with young horses. And Chad's good at it. I mean, certain guys are good at making them. It seems like Cody Snow made a few younger. He likes doing it, and he's kind of been riding the same too. But I think he trained them or whatever. He said he did a good job with them. But most guys, I always hear guys, they train them. I'm like, well, I've never seen you ride him one time. But so I don't know. There is a few guys that are good at it. Most people got to buy them, and then nowadays it's so tough to take them anywhere. You'll just lose to get them ready. So it's kind of getting harder to make them. It looks like to me.
Yeah, I think so too. Absolutely. Well, the boys, though, they're roping quite a bit, right?
Yeah, I got my two older ones. They're 13, 11. They love it. Whether they get good enough at it, I mean, that's to be determined. But yeah, they want to do it. They're pretty knowledgeable about it, so we'll see.
Are you going to encourage them to make a living roping if they want to? Like, what are you telling them to stay in school? Tell me about.
No, I would tell them to go get it. I would tell if they were good enough at it, and I thought they were good enough, and they could win, which that's the telltale sign. Can you win? I'd tell them to get it. I mean,
and they've been entering. They just started entering the jackpots, right, in the last year or so?
Yeah, last couple of years. The older one has. The other one's starting to, enter a little bit. They've been winning together randomly these last few weekends. I've been going to some of my dad's opens, and I never let the older one heel or dally. I let him heel all the time, but I never let him dally until this year at some of the lower number opens when the steers ain't running up the rope. And so they've been winning together randomly. They've placed quite a bit together, which actually works out good. So they've been doing a little bit like that. But yeah, we'll see. Like, they want to do it. We rope a lot. They handle the ropes good, but we'll see. I mean, you got to be really good. But no, I would tell any kid if they want to do it. But I don't say don't go to school. I wouldn't say go to school. It's almost, if you don't like school, I'd say don't go to school. If you like school and want to get educated, I'd say go. And I would say if you're good enough for roping and you can win, go do that. Whatever, if you're not good enough, it's not a great decision. You got to keep getting better. But I think every kid's different. It's almost what the kid's into. I didn't go to school because I wouldn't have went to class. So I knew it was a waste of time. I wanted out of high school so bad. You have no idea that college wouldn't have worked for me personally. Mm-hmm. But the next kid wants to go to school, get his degree, and when he's done rodeoing, he's finished with college and he'll start rodeoing, which I think is a cop out. Honestly, it means you're usually not good enough yet, but that's what they say anyway. So
that's what they say.
That's what they say.
They say.
Yeah.
Does Tyler still have Dre?
Yeah, he left him. He's got him there. He's got one of Driggers' horses. He's got a couple of mine. He left him in Texas. He was a little bit sore.
Gotcha.
So we just left him for the summertime, kicked out at a friend of mine's house. So he's living the life right now.
Nice.
100 acres of nice coastal and a huge pond to swim in if he needs to, I guess. So, yeah, he's living the life right now. Except it's probably hot and humid, but other than that, he's got a good spot.
Is Dew, can the kids ride Dew?
Tyler rode Dew at the Wendy Ryan roping. He rode him in my house a couple times, and that horse, he actually does good at home. The Wendy Ryan roping, his horse was kind of sore, so I was like, well, you can ride Dew, and it was a little much. Once we got to the roping, that horse, he didn't revert back to a kid's horse. He was going pretty hard, running too hard, and turning off too hard, facing too hard, doing everything too hard. So
like Dew does.
Yeah, you need a 10 healer back there, and you don't need to be 13 doing this. You know, you need to be a little bit older. And I thought he would do. I thought he'd be better. He wasn't. He's good at home, but he wasn't once I guess they got the music playing or whatever people say. Once he knew he was at the jackpot, he was going 100 miles an hour. So
I'll never forget Bobby riding him at the World Series finale in the warm-up pen, like just mad. He just had her so upset because he was so on it. Like
so wound up. Yeah, he gets that way.
Yeah.
He's still that way. 20 years old, still. He's had a long life, that horse, just because he's never chilled out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's what's made him good. You know, he was, little and tried hard all these years and still does try pretty dang hard, as hard as he can. So,
when was the last time you rode him?
I haven't rode him much this year. Just been riding the sorrel. Been heading pretty good on him. I rode him at Pecos. He worked all right there. I really haven't really flown nowhere. Everywhere I've went, I've just rode the same horse pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm one of those guys. I was like that with Dew when he was doing great. Is like, well, if I was doing good on him, I'm just going to ride you every time. I mean, you're already at the rodeo anyways. So, and if he's with you, you're just going to ride him. But no, he had a good run. He was. I probably won more money on that horse than any horse I've ever had. I'm sure, just because of the jackpot wins, and rode him at some NFRs and stuff. And he was awesome. Still is good, but he was really awesome in his prime.
Now, last question before we wrap it up. Fastback Ropes is sponsoring this podcast, of course.
Yeah.
You have been with Fastback for a really long time. How long have you been with them, and what advice would you give to kids about sponsors, keeping sponsors, and keeping a positive relationship with your sponsors?
Well, I started with Fastback in 2003, and it's been a great relationship. And then, randomly it's not why I live where I live, but I only live maybe 10 minutes from the rope shop, so it works out really good. It used to be Al Benson run it. Now it's Coy Up Church. I don't know. I've just always been. I always tell kids, get good, because no one really wants to sponsor if you're not great. You need to be good at what you do. You need to be a value to the company that way. Try to be a good guy if you can, and do what you're asked. If they want you to, do some autographs, do some autographs. You got to do some photo shoots, or like I'm doing this podcast. They're sponsoring it or whatever, but. Just kind of have a good working relationship, and it's been good both ways. I felt like I've been good for them, and then been good for me with the ropes. And I just know that, nowadays, especially, they've got every kind of rope you want. And if you like them light, if you like them heavy, if you like them fast, if you like them a little deader, they've got the rope. And so they've just been a great company. They're always trying new things, and just working hard at. They're never satisfied with just this is how we're going. This is how we're going to make our ropes and stick to it. I mean, they do stick to what they do, but they're always trying new ideas and test ropes just nonstop. And they put a lot of hard work in there, and they got a lot of good guys in there that, the guys behind the scenes even that make the company. You see Coy out front, but there's a lot of good people behind the scenes that work hard to, make the ropes great, and they want to do good for the roper. They want to see, they want to see you guys win that buy them and stuff. So I just like being a part of it, and hopefully, as long as I rope, that's the rope company I want to be with.
That's awesome. Well, I am glad for your wisdom. Did you get to ask me enough questions, or did I sneak out of?
I felt like you slipped out a lot. We didn't get into a lot of, but we'll have to do it again.
I think so. We'll do it again.
I just answered a lot of them. We didn't get into some of the probably political stuff that I'd have to go back on. But no, I think you're doing a good job with this podcast. Like I said, I when you asked me about it, I said, that's a great idea. Nobody's doing it. I don't even know if anybody else is still doing it.
I think Pace does it every now and then. Were you on Pace's podcast too?
No, I haven't.
No.
Yours was going to be the first one I did. I would have held out till you had me on, but no, I think it's good. You can, you download them, you listen to them going down the road, or whatever you got doing. I think it's hit the rodeo world a little late, but I think they're here to stay in the mainstream world too. They're not going away. I think it's cool. You get some inside info and just have a conversation. Hopefully, the people listening learned a few things. Like I said, we'll have to do it again, and maybe I'll put you on the spot a few times. I took it a little easy on you the first time, but.
Dude, I want to sit down and have a conversation with you and somebody else. Actually let you guys kind of go at it. Not go at it because you're not going to fight, but I would gain a lot if we did this in person someday and sat down with you and somebody who's not at all like you. Maybe you and Buddy Hawkins should sit down one day and we should talk.
Yeah, me and Buddy see things kind of same. He's my go-to inner guy now. Him and pretty much him.
Really?
When you get old, when you get older and you don't pay attention as much as you used to, you got to have the go-to guy that spent hours looking at that paper, and maybe I missed something, just because I'm almost going off, just been there, done that. Mm-hmm. And maybe I missed something, and so Buddy, he's my go-to. I always say him and Drew Horner were my favorite team of all time. And
that was the craziest.
I love it. That was the best. That was
you guys buddying with them. You and Jade buddying with them was. We still talk about that today. Yeah. How crazy
I don't know if
Jade
feels. I don't know if Jade feels the same way, but they are my favorite team of all time, and they really are. They're my favorite team. We just had a little bit of everything in the rig. It was never a dull moment, and it was a fun few years. When we got to do it. And Drew, he's not even in it no more. I could see him coming back, but Buddy, he's been roping pretty dang good. And no, I just like those guys. You had a little bit one extreme to the next with all of us, so it was pretty fun. A few years.
The most extremes I could pick, if I could pick 4 guys that are at every end of the spectrum for in rig, it would be the 4 of you. It blew my mind that you guys buddied together.
Yeah. No, it was fun. It really was. It was a blast. I hope Drew comes back. He got married and stuff, so who knows?
He's pretty grown up now. He's
dresses. I hope he listens to this podcast. He's always wearing clothes too tight and his hair done nice. He's one of those guys now. So
he's fabulous. He was on an episode of the podcast because I love Drew's story.
Oh, he was. Drew. He was.
Yeah, he was.
He untucks his shirt now. And, he's that guy. He's got Sperry's or whatever city folk wear. But now Buddy hasn't changed a whole lot. Buddy's still pretty much the same.
He sure
Drew
is.
probably hadn't changed either. He was always. No, Buddy, I like Buddy a lot.
I love Buddy.
Favorites.
I was leaving a circuit rodeo, and the team roping was pretty close to the barrel racing, and I knew my husband didn't get me videoed, and I had a really good run, and I was feeling so bad. And I looked down at my phone, and I had a text from Buddy Hawkins with my video. Buddy Hawkins will video the barrel racers. He's good people.
Buddy took care of you.
Clay,
okay.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I have so enjoyed this. It lived up to the hype that I had for it in my head.
Thanks for having me. I'll do better next time.
I can't wait. All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
All right.
All right, everybody. I sure hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did. I know that Clay and I are going to try this again someday and have a nice conversation with somebody else in the roping industry. I wish Clay were my co-host because he is such a podcast master, as he talked about in this episode. So one of these days, you can look forward to that. Clay's going to help me interview somebody. Come to think of it, if you look back through our website, once upon a time, Clay helped interview Cody Ohl for me. Still one of my favorite videos we've ever done to date. So check that out on theteamropingjournal.com. That was a spin to win rodeo video from back in the day. Thank you again to Fastback Ropes for sponsoring this episode. I really enjoyed this opportunity to visit with Clay. And I will talk at you all next week on the Short Score. Thanks, guys. All right, before we go, guys, I want to make sure you thank our sponsors at Fastback Ropes. They just came out with their new rope, the Cobalt, and definitely consider putting it in your rope bag for the rest of the summer.
The Fastback Ropes supports what we do here, bringing more information to the team roping industry. That's going to maximize your time in the arena because you know more. And we just love partners that will support these kind of efforts because it's what grows the sport. And we can't thank Fastback Ropes enough. So everybody have a great summer, and we look forward to talking at you next week.